2 p.m. Central African Time. Good afternoon and welcome to the program. You're watching Market View, the Tuesday edition. On Focus today, we want to turn our attention to the backbone of Eswatini's economy, and that is small and medium enterprises. For decades now, MSMEs have powered job creation and economic participation across the kingdom. The 2023 Finscope MSME survey estimates that Eswatini is home to between 68,000 and 70,000 of these businesses, collectively employing over 90,000 people. That is more than 21% of the national workforce, with the sector contributing close to half of the country's GDP. But the operating environment is tightening. There's rising fuel costs, there's increasing electricity tariffs, as well as the likelihood of higher transport fares that are placing significant strain on these businesses. What was once a conversation about growth is now, for many, a question of resilience and survival. We will be joined by the Chief Executive of the Eswatini business community, Ben Simelane, and unpack how MSMEs are responding to these pressures and what lies ahead for this critical sector. But before all of that, let's look at our business news. In our first story, in a step toward stronger tax compliance, the Eswatini Revenue Service has partnered with the Eswatini National Provident Fund to enable strategic data sharing, unlocking valuable insights to help close that 4 billion Malangeni tax gap per year. Commissioner General Brightwell Nkambule says this collaboration will promote fairness and transparency, supporting a more effective as well as an inclusive tax system through improved data sharing.
Eswatini Revenue Services Commissioner General Brightwell Nkambule says that through their partnership with the Eswatini National Provident Fund, they aim to achieve 100% tax compliance by sharing data and expertise to ensure every employer remits pay-as-you-earn and help close the 4 billion Malangeni annual tax gap.
Our collaborator, share my notes. Ngoba sobabili na ENPF sinalo employee lapha sine ngithi iclient ka ENPF lilunga imember so sisawusharisha information sisharishe nebuchwephesha kuze kuthi le client iphatheke kahle sitovala le gap nje ya 4 billion nangibathe ngiyibukisisa mina la kule msebenzi lesiwendawo namhla funa siyivale lokungenani very close to 1 billion. Sukela namhla kuya kulomnyaka lotaba because le gap lesiyibonako kuphewa inkulu kakhulu and iqhamuka kuphi iqhamuka la ekutheni labanye batayibamba le mali kulama employees batawutshala ama employees lama clients ukuthi yefuna ukubhadala PAYE bayibambe kepha ingafiki la kithi le gap iqhamuka lapho nje batayibamba ngale ingafiki ngala ngalokuthi ke asikhona lokwadi lokuthi bobani basebenta kuphi basebentela bani asikhona lokubona ukuthi sekubanjwa imali engaka so lo msebenzi lesentako nje namhla kakhulu sifisa nje kuhambisa embili thina ukuthi siyayivala le gap le voluntary compliance lesibonile kulamanye mave lokuyi target kithi ku 100% sibona ngathi sitawusonzela kuyo lo 100%.
Eswatini National Provident Fund's Chief Executive Officer Futhi Dembe says non-compliance in the remittance of statutory obligations will no longer be tolerated.
The days of employers neglecting, delaying, or intentionally avoiding their statutory obligations to workers are coming to an end. The ENPF exists to safeguard the future of the nation's workforce. Every contribution that is deducted from an employee's salary is not a favor, not a donation to the employers, and certainly it's not optional. It is a legal obligation, a commitment to the people who labor tirelessly day after day to sustain businesses and grow the economy of Eswatini. Unfortunately, what we've seen at ENPF, a number of the employers have treated this obligation with disregard. Some withhold the contributions and never remit them to the fund. We've seen that a lot. Bakolege bathatha imali barane business. Yet that money belongs to the members. Others underdeclare their workforce, and some simply choose not to register their employees at all. This is not only unethical, but it is also unlawful. It is an injustice to the hardworking people of Eswatini. Office. We've started with one office, but we will really push to see where guna ERS na ENPF sibe in one building for the convenience of the people, of our members, of the customer, malaga ERS, because both of us are all about the people.
The Eswatini Revenue Service and the Eswatini National Provident Fund plan to expand their reach by opening more co-located service centers. Currently, the ENPF operates at the ERS's service center in Matapa. Reporting, Nelson Langamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Ezulwini.
That is how we end our business news today. We have the Chief Executive of the Eswatini business community, Ben Simelane, and we talk how the business community is navigating these rising costs that are being experienced all around the world. Stay with us.
To all the viewers of Eswatini TV in the kingdom and beyond. Eswatini TV is regulated by the Eswatini Communications Commission through the Broadcasting Code and Broadcasting Guidelines. Under these instruments, the station commits to broadcasting information and news that have been fact-checked, programs and content in respectful language with no elements of hate speech, violence or sexual activity. If you hear any unsuitable content on this channel, you have a right to voice your complaints with the station management. Should you not be satisfied with the response or action taken, you can escalate your matter to the Communications Commission at PO Box 7811 Babani. Call 2406 7000 or send an email to info@esccom.org.za. For more information, visit www.esccom.org.za.
Those that are in pain must forget all the problems they have. Because the things of the earth have got no answer. But the answer that we have is all morning. When I'm preaching here, I'm preaching to myself. I receive the Holy Spirit.
I declare a turnaround is coming my way.
Turnaround is coming in my life.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Government has long championed small and medium enterprises as the driving force behind the nation's economy. The 2023 Finscope e-blended MSME survey reveals that Eswatini is home to nearly 68,000 to 70,000 micro, small and medium enterprises. Together, these businesses provide jobs for over 90,000 people, accounting for more than 21% of the national workforce, as well as contributing around 50% to the country's gross domestic product. With fuel prices now climbing, electricity costs rising, and bus fares projected to head upward, small and medium enterprises face unprecedented challenges. How are they adapting to these pressures? And can they survive in this climate of ever-increasing costs? We now speak with the Chief Executive of the Eswatini Federation of Business Community, Ben Simelane. Nguni, you are at the core center of engagement with businesses across the Kingdom of Eswatini. Just how severe, if you were to give us a real picture of what is happening on the ground, just how severe are these pressures that we are seeing? We're talking rising fuel, we're talking electricity costs hiking, as well as transport costs projected to hike. How severe is it for the MSMEs right now?
Thanks for the opportunity to present the picture with the way we see it. The impact is significant, especially to the MSMEs, micro, small, medium enterprises. Unlike perhaps the big businesses which can have reserves to survive during the difficult times, the MSMEs do not have reserves. Once they're hit, it's either they survive or they are out of the market. They are out of production.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting because we often speak of MSMEs as, and we term them resilient, but resilience has its own limits, right? Are we beginning to see business closures now, downsizing or shifts maybe into the informal space as costs continue to rise?
Yes, if you look at very close to the businesses, how they operate, in most cases it's hand to mouth. They don't have, when they sell their produce, they don't make huge profits. They're unable to put something on reserve. So once there's a disturbance, then it either takes them out of production or they barely survive. It's difficult for them, especially on the production costs. Maybe that's where we tend to advise most of them to concentrate on. Yeah. Looking at the cost, the production costs. You find that these rise in fuel prices and other energy costs hit hard. They can't barely make break even, if you may, and that affects them seriously.
Quite concerning. So yeah. we do anticipate to see some closures, you say?
Yes. The other thing which most people don't recognize is that not only on the production side, and also their approaches, there is reduced consumer spending because the market out there has also run out of cash. So once I don't have enough money to buy, I then tend to choose, I can buy this, I can't buy this. And it's impacting on the producers, most of them the MSMEs, because it means their produce will not go out. And if the produce doesn't go out, it hits the cash flow. Yeah. And if it hits the cash flow, then they can't run the businesses.
It's worrying because I suppose on that particular topic that you have sort of pivoted into, it sort of gives us the picture that cost pressures are one side of the story, but there's also the revenue side of the story, which is a totally different story. And it makes me wonder if, and I think you've answered it already, but I want you to maybe elaborate further on it. The fact that are MSMEs going to manage to pass these rising costs onto the consumer, or are we seeing margins here being squeezed into unsustainable levels?
I think the latter is highly likely to happen because there is a limit in how far you can sell your produce. You then depend on the consumers. You are at the hands of the consumers. So it's a difficult time. What we want to emphasize, especially on the MSMEs, is that they must look at all their production costs and look at what they can control and what they cannot control. What they cannot control, they shouldn't spend more energy on that, but they should look at what they can control and create efficiencies, productivity that will tend to ease the production stress or strain.
Yeah. So from your vantage point as the chief executive of FESBIC, and as FESBIC really, when you just conduct an eye study of all the MSMEs that are operating right now, and we fragment them into sectors, right? Which ones would you say are showing signs of being the most vulnerable right now, and which ones are showing signs of, maybe adapting, for lack of a better term?
Okay, I think those that are taking the biggest strain is the transport sector, because for them to operate, they need fuel, for example, and agribusinesses. I think mostly the agribusinesses, because that's where you get food production and that's where you get employment. Let me make an example. It's been alleged that the Strait of Hormuz, the restriction there, has halted about 30% of urea, movement of urea. And if you impact on fertilizer, then immediately don't expect much produce, yields. Yields will drop because people may not be able to afford the prices of fertilizers. And if yields drop, then it means there'll be famine, hunger. And also employment will be hit hard for those that depend on agribusinesses. And if you look at countries like ours, which has a lot of people involved in agribusinesses, it's a severe impact. But obviously, as you put it, there are those other businesses which probably will not feel that much impact as opposed to these that are directly.
And which ones are those ones? Businesses in the tech space, maybe? For example, that would be one of those that are not heavily hit, and those that are in manufacturing. But it's limited because even in manufacturing, you have to have the supplies. Some of these are imported. And this problem has restricted, especially the freight charges will go up. So movement of goods and services is going to be hit hard. So we need to be innovative. We need to embrace digitization, digital solutions, because that's how you can operate without moving and communicating with your consumers, your suppliers, and everything. And also we need to encourage people to work as a team, cooperate, and buy things in bulk so that they can perhaps stock items that they will need in the production line. I mean, I think you're hinting to it because you're saying we need more digital solutions to sort of catalyze as well as expedite and mitigate this current problem. If we look at developed economies, what are some of those employed digital solutions that you think we need more urgently in Eswatini? And I suppose ones that would be adopted, particularly by our agricultural sector, because it is going to be hit hard, and it is the backbone of our economy in Eswatini, and it's the MSMEs and agriculture. So you can imagine what our GDP is going to look like.
Yes, I think you are right. In agri, for example, you can look at systems that can enhance production. So that when you look at your production, you can have a dashboard which will easily flag where there are loopholes or where there are bottlenecks, and you are able to improve on your production. Gone are the days when you need to walk around checking your work. You now have to have things right at your fingertips and be able to identify a problem before it happens. So you just look at the trends and the signals, and then you anticipate and provide a solution before even that problem hits you.
I know now the big conversation around the adoption of technology, particularly in the business of manufacturing, and as well as just, let's say, business as a whole, is just how much this technology threatens jobs. And I just wonder, in agriculture in Eswatini, particularly when you juxtapose the current situation of our employment rate in Eswatini, and we call it unemployability, I know, but some of these jobs require things whereby you don't necessarily have to have soft skills, and I just wonder if people will lose jobs.
Yeah, it's one area which we need to tread very carefully, whilst we encourage systems and also digitize operations, but we also have to balance it up with loss of employment, because some of these things we're using labor because we want to at least have as much people employed and being able to live and survive. So there has to be some kind of a balance in the production line, so that we don't lose one over the other. But at the end of the day, again, it comes back to breaking even and having a profitable business. And in that way, then you'll tend to employ as much as you can, but not to the extent that you will run.
Absolutely. And I suppose right now it's back-to-back meetings, Mguni, in terms of the solutions that need to be, employed and deployed to remedy this situation. Thank you so much for your time, and all the best with all those meetings, and hopefully the businesses in isolation are also doing just that, grappling with the rising costs, that global rising costs, as well as our local rising costs that are quite unique to us, is something that is quite the big challenge right now. Let's go for a net break. We have our market analysis with our economist, Sanela Spear, when we return.
Those that
are in pain must forget all the problems they have. Because the things of the earth have got no answer. But the answer that we have is all morning. When I'm preaching here, I'm preaching to myself. I receive the Holy Spirit.
I declare that a turnaround is coming my way.
Turnaround is coming in my life.
Thank you for staying with us. Our market analysis now with Sanela Spear, our economist, who joins us virtually. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Spear. With just 7 minutes remaining on the clock, I'll give you the floor to take us through the numbers today.
Thank you, Ngumalo, and a good afternoon to you, and also good afternoon to the viewers. So in terms of markets, we know that we are just fresh off the long weekend. So we are still waiting for the US to open, and we are looking at opening bells, ringing at around 50 hours, CAT. So that means we do not have the numbers for the US right now. But then starting with the European markets, we are seeing a bit of a rebound in Europe, but what we must state is all happening from a standpoint of a very low base. So the FTSE 100 in the UK is actually up 13.92 points, settling at 10,450.21 overall share volumes. Still ways from the 10,800 mark that we saw before the war started. Germany again is also up 71 points, settling on that 23,000 mark. Still low is from that 24,000 that we were used to before the war. And then France then is back on the 8,000 mark, gaining 65 points. So what is really moving markets then is, number one, we know that in the background of that, there are still the earnings reports that are coming through and, just overall financial data coming through. But what we've come to know and understand is right now markets are moving with the news and what is coming out of Iran and what also is coming out of Washington. So what we see coming out of Washington today is that rhetoric around whether we are going to see the Strait of Hormuz being open today or not, and we are counting down the hours. We are now at 39 hours to deadline until President Trump makes his next move on Iran. We don't know whether the Strait of Hormuz is going to be open by then, or we're going to see a total obliteration, as President Trump just tweeted. A couple of minutes ago. He didn't tweet. He put it on Truth Social. And then coming into Asia again, we are seeing a bit of a rebound, because the world is optimistic that the strait should actually open. But markets still remain very much cautious as to what is going to happen there. But what we're seeing is the Nikkei is back on the 53,000 mark. But do recall that we are coming from a 58,000 level in terms of share volume before the war started. And in Shanghai, we are sitting at 3,890. Down from 4,200 before the war started. So, as much as we are seeing these marginal gains, they are still coming off from a very low base. And in Hong Kong, we're seeing a bit of a decline there because, markets are still waiting to see what is going to happen. And, the tech stocks are really just being hampered by what is happening right now. And in Johannesburg, the Johannesburg Stock Exchange has shown a bit of resilience, going back up the 115,000 mark. But recall that we are from points where we're now trading at 125,000 in terms of all volume. So what now is happening there is the price of gold has broken the 4,500 mark into the 4,600 mark, and now that is supporting the Johannesburg Stock Exchange overall. In Eswatini, we've not seen any change. And then coming into commodities, gold has gained 3.1 points in today's trade, sitting at $487.80 dollars per ounce. And the price of Brent crude oil has passed the 10,000, the 110 mark, the $110 mark. They're sitting at 110.12. $12 per barrel. So from there, what we notice is ever since yesterday, when President Trump started with his address, we've seen the price of Brent crude getting to 111 and even up on the upwards, because there's a lot of uncertainty around what is going to happen within the Strait of Hormuz. So that is why we're seeing that the oil futures market, the way it's moving, it somehow signals that they are not really expecting the strait to open them. And gold as a hedge continues to rise. In terms of the exchange rate, the Lilangeni is relatively strong against the dollar and the euro, albeit the fact that at midday it had shown some signs of weakening there. But we are back on that 1689 or 1689 1689 per dollar. and 1951 per euro, and Anna Lilangeni can get you 9 Japanese yens. So now that is given by the fact that the markets are really just a bit volatile right now with what is happening in oil markets and the overall weakness of the dollar ever since this war started. Thank you, Mr. Ngumalo.
Mr. Spiawe, thank you for your insights there. Stanley Spiawe, our economist, just giving us the insights on what the numbers are telling us today. We thank you for staying with us on the program as well. We'll see you again tomorrow and other days. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.